The cars are about ready to come onto the grid now for the first race on this afternoon's program. Heat number 1 of the AMSCAR Better Brakes Touring Car Challenge. Let's take a look at them. From position number 1 in the Nissan Turbo is Fred Gibson. From position number 2, Barry Jones in the RX-7, car number 41. From position number 3 is car number 50, Peter McLeod in the RX-7. From position number 4, car number 19, Greg Topfer in the Commodore. Position 5, car 105, Terry Finnegan in the Commodore. From position 6, car number 44, Paul Jones in the RX-7. Car number 37, Terry Shield, starts from position number 7. Car number 12, Jim Keogh, will start from position number 8 in the Commodore. From position number 9, car number 8, Garry Wilkinson in the Falcon. From position number 10, car number 30, Tony Kaditch in an RX-7. From position 11, car number 3, Mike Bergman in the big Camaro. And from position number 12, car number 36, John Kraft in the Ford Capri.
Marco, Fred Gibson, and he'll be hoping for a little bit better fortune than the last time he had pole here at Amaroo. I don't think he, in fact, ever got off the grid. But he's there today and had the advantage of, in fact, qualifying in slightly drier conditions yesterday afternoon than some of the early qualifiers had. And a time of 57.8, although slow by track record standards, was enough to put him on the pole position with Barry Jones alongside him on the front row. Series leader in the AMSCAR Better Brakes Series, Terry Shield, is back on the 4th row of the grid. He had a mishap in the early qualifying session yesterday in which his accelerator jammed and he went off the circuit, did a little damage to the car, and he did come back for the second session of qualifying, but unfortunately wasn't able to post a fast enough time to move himself up the grid.
Ready for dispatch in the first heat of round number 3 of the Better Brakes AMSCAR series for touring cars. Missing from the field is Steve Masterton. There's Freddie Gibson sitting on pole for today's race. 42 years of age. He's been racing for 22 years. Likes water skiing. He'll feel at home here today, let me tell you. Started racing, of course, at age 20. Winner of Bathurst in 67 with Harry Firth. Second in 66 with Bill Stanley. Left forward to join Alfa Romeo team. And now driver developer with the Nissan team. Freddie Gibson, you'll be seeing a lot of him today. And also this man, Barry Jones, driving the Darrell Lee entry, the RX-7. Hard man to beat round Amaroo Park at the best of times.
He's put a lot of developmental work into the Mazda RX-7s. In fact, I think they owe him a lot through the early days when this car came into racing. He did an awful lot of work and has shared the benefits of his research around to a lot of other drivers that came in on the tail. Picked up a lot of valuable information from Barry Jones. Peter McLeod is one of those, and he's really improved his performance in this car over the last several meetings here at Amaroo Park. He's on the 2nd row with Greg Topfer in the Commodore. Big effort by him to get up on the 2nd row of the grid.
And the man we'll keep an eye on is Terry Shield in car number 37, starting back from position 7. Keep an eye on him. We're about just over 10 seconds away from the start of heat number 1 today under very cloudy, misty skies here at Amaroo Park. We're ready to go motor racing on the 7 network. Racing, getting away very quickly indeed on the inside. No, he wasn't. It was Barry Jones. And Freddie Gibson a little slow to get off the line. Greg Topfer has given him some buffeting there on the inside. There's Terry Shield going up, sitting behind Gibson. Gibson's dropped back about 4 spots as they head over the top, down into Dunlop Loop for the first time. Just take a look at the water on the grass there on the inside verge.
Lightning start there by car 44, the all-blue Mazda RX-7. He's having a bit of trouble at the moment trying to keep Greg Topfer out. That's Barry Jones way out in front. The blue Mazda behind him is Paul Jones, started off the 3rd row, just been passed by Greg Topfer. In fact, the traffic's starting to overwhelm him now. The leader, Barry Jones, really started well. Fred Gibson got off the line and then seemed to lose it for a moment. In fact, Peter McLeod almost ran up the back of him. Down into Winfield, first time. Topher in 2nd place. Finnegan's up into 3rd spot in the Triple M Commodore.
Here comes the battle with Terry Shield moving up from position 7. Freddie Gibson has dropped back in the pack, as you can see. And here's Terry Finnegan making a move here on the inside of Greg Topfer. Couldn't pull it. There's Freddie Gibson in the Nissan Turbo. Terry Shields and the Eurocar Mazda is the next one as they drop over the top of Marlborough, down into the right-hander at Dunlop Loop. There's great battle going on between Fred Gibson and Terry Shield as they go through the right-hand turn that tightens up. as they work to the back straight.
That slow start by Gibson probably cost McLeod a couple of places. He's been shuffled out of the main fight at the present time, and he could probably thank Freddie Gibson for that. Garry Jones leading well. Gibson involved in the straight dice. Terry Shield right on him. Oh, Finnegan there as well. They've got Finnegan.
Terry Finnegan's keeping them all honest as Shield comes down on the inside, just nibbling away at the inside of Freddie Gibson. There's Topher up in second. Jones goes past. He's already onto the front straight.
A little sideways. Jones leads. Topher second. Gibson third. Shield fourth. Finnegan fifth as they complete 2 laps.
Here's Gibson now on the inside of Topher, 1 spot further towards the leader. Shield follows as they go up the top of Itchapave, down into Dunlop Loop. And Topher doing a good job indeed in the Commodore. Finnegan also keeping the pressure on there behind Terry Shield as they head down once again towards Mazda Corner.
Freddie Gibson there going through in the Nissan Bluebird, followed by Greg Topher. Terry Shield trying to get under him. Finnegan in behind them, desperate to regain the position that he... Oh, goodness me!
There,
touch and go there with that pair.
Well, he's picked a very brave line here on the outside of the Commodore. We'll wait and see whether he can outbrake him going into the corner. I don't think Topher is in the mood to give away too much, but Shield finds his way around the outside. There's Finnegan. Topher finds himself going a little wide. Finnegan closes up very, very quickly here on the inside.
Well,
through Wonderlick.
Double shuffle puts Topher back to 5th place.
Terry Shield with Terry Finnegan very, very close indeed to him. Coming up on the inside, a very, very tight line required there, but Shield manages to hold on to 3rd place through Dunlop Loop. Race lead still being held, of course, by Barry Jones and the Darrell Lee Mazda RX-7. 2nd place to Freddie Gibson in car number 56, and here's 3rd place held by Terry Shield.
Tail out on Topher's Commodore there as he goes round Mazda Corner into Honda. Shield in 3rd spot. Takes Winfield, the right-hander, Finnegan. Just losing out a little bit there. Shield, of course, is the series leader in this AMSCAR Better Brakes competition here at Amaroo Park. Oh, very close. Up the top. Finnegan right on his tailpipe, but no way through there.
Of course, Terry Shield is the production touring car track record holder here at Amaroo Park. 53.2 the time. He'll be turning nothing like that here today with the very, very wet conditions.
Well, his qualifying time for this race was 59.9.
I think that's the furthest we've seen Terry Shield back on the grid. 7th spot, but he's up to 3rd. Barry Jones still the race leader. There's Shield running in 3rd place, and 2nd held by Fred Gibson in the Nissan Turbo car number 56. There's Terry Finnegan, Mr. Ever Present, in the 2MMM Commodore.
5 laps to go, halfway mark.
Oh! And of course, Channel 7 today bringing you some pictures from using, of course, our exclusive race cam system. And we're following now, of course, Peter McLeod in the yellow Mazda RX-7, and we're aboard in Garry Wilmington's Ford Falcon. That will give you an idea of just how dismal the conditions are. Say nothing for spectators, but certainly for the drivers. And it looks like young Garry has received a stone in the shield. You can see the windscreen there has a pretty big dent in it. And there's Wilmington working away down the back part of Amaroo Park's course, down towards the left-hander at Honda. The roads are wash here today. Down through the gears. Slight kink in the straight now, down to the right-hander at Winfield.
A deep-throated rumble of the big Falcon, contrasting with a high-pitched whine of the Mazda RX-7s. Power down. But you can see, even at this part of the circuit, the little RX-7 pulling away from him.
Heading up to the top of Itchapave.
McLeod's left him. You can see 1 lap we've been following, and McLeod has pulled well away.
Okay, that's Garry Wilmington race cam. We'll be picking up more race cam during the afternoon, and particularly in the Alfa Romeo Cup Series, because we're going to take you racing with Colin Bond.
That's the race leader now, car 41. Barry Jones going down to Winfield Corner and about to be under challenge from Fred Gibson.
Gibson has made up a lot of ground. There's Jones sideways coming out of the corner. Gibson moves up on the outside. No room to pass there. Through Wonderlick Corner. Just look how close these cars are running as they come onto the front straight at Amaroo Park and head up the hill.
Three laps to go.
Barry Jones just there. Freddie Gibson making big gains here in the past couple of laps. Down into the right-hander at Dunlop Loop. Barry Jones, car number 41. Fred Gibson, who was very, very quick here in the wet yesterday.
Gibson's teammate, of course, George Fury, has been seen to advantage in the Australian Touring Car Championship Series this season. Gibbo hasn't had quite the same luck here at Amaroo in the Better Breaks AMSCAR Series, but he's hoping for a change of fortune today, and he's certainly putting it right up to Barry Jones.
Looking towards the inside here.
Traffic. Both passed safely. Jones staying in shape this time. Almost lost it there last time round. Got away a little from Gibson there. On the way up the hill. 2 laps to go.
Great scrap this. We move into the final stages of heat number 1 of the Better Breaks today. Still Barry Jones in front in the Darrell Lee RX-7. Freddie Gibson on his bumper in the Nissan Turbo.
Places to pass, of course, are limited here at Amaroo. Gibson pushing hard, hoping that Jones will just make a slight mistake, enough to let him through. But Barry Jones has got heaps of experience on this circuit.
The track actually drying on the back straight. Still fairly wet, though, along the front straight. Down into Honda Corner again. Jones comes out of that corner, uses all of the racetrack, keeps his line tight. Freddie Gibson closes up, will probably work to the left, make a run down the outside and try and cut back on the inside as they come out of the corner.
Jones the leader. Gibson second. Terry Finnegan's now third in the Commodore. He's given Terry Shield the slip in the other Mazda RX-7, by the way.
Last lap. Board. Shown to Barry Jones. Freddie Gibson still very, very close indeed as they come up Bitchapave Hill for the final time. Drop down over the top into Marlborough, down Dunlop Loop. The ever-tightening right-hander that takes the cars onto the back straight here at Amaroo Park. Freddie Gibson, much better line, a tighter line on the exit to that corner. So he's right on the bumper now of Barry Jones, rather. And they've got a Ford that they're going to put a lap on as they come down the Honda Corner. Now this could be interesting. Jones elects to hug the inside. Now Freddie Gibson's going to have a run here. No, changes direction and comes back again on the inside. And the two of them race it off down to the final right-hander at Winfield. Still Barry Jones with Freddie Gibson ever so close.
Swings wide, tries to come back underneath. Hasn't got the horsepower to do it just there. One more turn to go. Jones cuts it nice and tight and zooms away to the checkered flag. He's got the money. Barry Jones, winner of the first heat in today's round of the AMSCAR Better Break Series here at Amaroo Park from Freddie Gibson. Great dice between that pair over the concluding 3 laps of that 10-lap event. And the results on screen. Barry Jones, the winner. Fred Gibson in second place in the Nissan Turbo. And Terry Finnegan in the Commodore, finishing in third place. And, of course, you saw some camera car pictures there from the Big Falcon of Garry Wilmington, and we'll be bringing you more of those later in the afternoon.
Barry Jones in the red RX-7, Freddie Gibson in the turbocharged white Nissan Bluebird. Right behind them, Peter McLeod in the RX-7 and Greg Topher in the white Commodore.
10 seconds, less than that. We prepare for the start of heat 2. Racing, and just look at the little Nissan get away smartly, but Jones again has foiled the bet as he ranges up here on the outside. The next one to go through on the inside was Finnegan. Dane also well positioned there as well. And trying to find daylight is Terry Shield as they come across the top, drop down into Dunlop for the first time. Barry Jones looking sharp out there.
And a great start by Terry Finnegan. He's up into third place and really going hard and right on the boot of Fred Gibson. But it's Jones who got the start in the RX-7. Fred Gibson now has wound up the turbo. The big Camaro there of Mike Bergman just picking up a bit of mud and got it back on track. Fred Gibson now has the turbo really running at full blast, clawing away at the steering wheel there, and he's charging after The little RX-7 of Barry Jones trying to go on the inside, can't quite do it. Jones blocks the path and goes through the first corner. Winfield. The race is over 10 laps, side by side. Gibson's got him.
Good run here from Freddie Gibson as he comes through in Heat 2 to take the lead away. Inside 2 circuits, Gibson leads across the strike. Second place being held by Barry Jones in the Darrell Lee entry. Terry Finnegan in the 2 Triple M car back up into 3rd place and 4th place. We've got a prang with Terry Shield just going past the start line. And there's one upside down. That could be
McLeod.
No.
Is it Peter McLeod? There's a lot of fiberglass and metalwork here. The car's touched at the start line.
Not far away from our commentary position in the Masterton Home Centre. Officials race very quickly up there to check and make sure that the driver is okay. It is, in fact, car number 88, Fred Geisler, in the Commodore. And of course, we caught just the end of that because the cars just tear past the commentary box. And there's Fred Geisler, you can see, sitting up on the bank with one of the safety marshals removing his helmet. I think Fred was okay. It's a pretty soft landing, landed on all 4, upside down. And there's the remains of Fred Geisler's Commodore as the track marshal's moving well and truly out of harm's way. Still some debris left on the track, and we've had Barry Jones pull up just down from that area and has also taken off as well. So that has put Freddie Gibson well and truly up in front in the Nissan Turbo, number 56. And here he comes down the back straight, past Peter Warren, and down now to the left-hander at Honda Corner. To the left-hander, Freddie Gibson, who had to make up so much ground to win the first heat. And there you can see Barry Jones.
He's had a bump, as you can see as well. The car has been hit on the back corner, and he stopped just near the point where Geisler's car has inverted itself on the grass, just past the commentary position here, around the bank on the left.
The dramas are plenty unfolding here at Amaroo Park this afternoon, with Barry Jones, the number 41 car, being removed. Back there is, I think, the Toshiba Commodore, the one, of course, driven by Jim Keogh, the Melbourne solicitor. There's Terry Finnegan in the wall, what the guardrail.
Another touch there, you can see, whether they all resulted from one initially, but whether damage in the front, but he's had a touch, probably enough to send him off. There are cars everywhere, one running wide, coming down towards Honda. You can see just on the right-hand side, pulling off there, a white Commodore there. Not a good race for the Commodores. One on the roof, one on the side of the road. Fred Gibson, in the meantime, just blasting through the middle, wondering where all the opposition has gone. The man closest to him is Peter McLeod in the yellow Mazda RX-7. He, in the slick 50 entry, is maybe 30 metres behind, no more.
Garry Wilmington back in 4th place in the first of the Ford Falcons. There's our race leader, Fiery Fred, in the Nissan Turbo. The wick turned up, cool day, running like smoky. There's Peter McLeod, running strongly in the Schlick 50 car, heading up to the top, dropping over Marlborough and now down into Dunlop Loop. And having a good day indeed is Peter McLeod, who has been one of the ever-presents in touring cars for the past couple of seasons. Doesn't have an enormous budget, but he turns up at all the race meetings and does well.
This is the man who's leading a very confusing race at the moment. Fred Gibson, car 56, the Works Nissan turbocharged Bluebird. Right behind him and making up ground is Peter McLeod in the 50 RX-7. Then in 3rd spot is car 8. That's Garry Wilmington in the yellow Ford Falcon. And a long way back to car 19, running in 4th place, Greg Topher in the Commodore. They're the leading 4. And not that much of a margin from Fred Gibson back to Peter McLeod. You can see McLeod has made up a lot of ground, and it is putting a real challenge on the Nissan driver. And Wilmington in 3rd spot.
And here we come with Garry Wilmington. That'll give you an idea of the track conditions as we go inside Garry Wilmington's Ford Falcon. You can see, no, he wasn't attacked by a shotgun pellet, but certainly a rock in an earlier heat today. Give you an idea of the layout of the Amaroo course that Evan took you through a little earlier in our telecast coming down the back straight.
You'll get a chance to notice all the parked cars. There's one on the right down here, just about where that bullseye is. Kapunk, went past it, and we're now getting into an area which is almost like the car park outside the main railway station of your town. Down the back straight, coming in towards Winfield. This is the tight corner. Stick with Garry Wilmington as he just sliced it through. He's running in 3rd spot. They're the leaders, just up in front. That's Peter McLeod in his gun sights at the moment, and Peter McLeod is closing on Freddie Gibson, who's just crossed the start-finish line. Garry Wilkinson now thundering up. Over the line he goes, and there are cars on the left, and there's a car on the right in the fence just up here. There it is.
It's the Terry Finnegan car. Over the top of Marlborough, now down into Dunlop Loop, the corner that tightens. Right-hander, still turning right. Short straight, another kink to the right now. And I must pay special tribute to John Porter and the hard-working people that have developed Racecam. We had Racecam set up in Steve Masterton's Ford Falcon to show you pictures, hopefully running with the front runners this afternoon. The car was totaled in practice yesterday, and John Porter arrived at the circuit this morning and within 35 minutes was able to get a bracket and bring pictures from this car. An absolute tribute to our Racecam people, of course, from Channel 7. Let's pick up the race leader over the top.
Freddie Gibson. Wondering what happened to the competition, but he would be aware from pit signals and the occasional glimpse he gets in the rear vision mirror that the man closest to him is not too far behind, Peter McLeod, who started from the second row of the grid. You just saw the flash of yellow on your screen there as he pulls out to pass one of the Alpha Suds, competing in the Alpha Sud Trophy race and having a gallop in this race just so the driver can keep his hand in. Fred, 42 years of age, been racing for more than half of those years, has won Bathurst, now the test and development and race driver for the Nissan Motor Company. He and Howard Marsden, I suppose, the men most responsible. There's Fred Geisler walking around, showing his okay. He's come over to have a chat with Garry Wilkinson. In fact, we'll talk to him about what happened, what put him on the roof right at the start-finish line in just a few moments. In the meantime, still out there on the track, Freddie Gibson. Beautifully prepared car, this. I've mentioned this a few times before, but it is probably the fullest factory effort in Australia. The two-car team run by Nissan. This car, which Fred Gibson drives, and the other car, which we see only at the Australian Touring Car Championship rounds, driven by the Albury farmer George Fury, former national rally champion and leading the point score this year for the Australian Touring Car Championship. Whether he wins it or not depends on how well Alan Moffat goes, because the drivers are required to drop one race from their total points, and if you already drop out the worst score that George Fury has, that puts Alan Moffat in front in the RX-7, so quite a tussle for the national championship with one lap to go. But at the moment it's being led in total points by a car that is a sister to this, the Works Nissan Bluebird, 1.8 litres, turbocharged, probably the path of the future. There's the last lap board, as you can see, and Fred has just under 2 kilometres to go, 1.9 kilometres from this point. He has survived some of the carnage that has removed some of the other front runners. We lost through a bump and possibly some associated mechanical damage the RX-7 that won the first round. That was the Barry Jones car. We saw Fred Geisler spin and crash heavily on its roof. Terry Finnegan in a touch and spinning into the fence on the far side of the track. The Commodore that came third and was being driven with great enterprise. Really, Finnegan was going so well, but he's into the fence and almost certainly out of the next round of this race, which we'll be showing you later today. So there's more action from the touring cars yet. But it's Fred Gibson now with just 2 corners to go to notch up victory in this, the second heat of the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car Series. Through Winfield, and he just has to get the checkered flag, and that's what he gets. Freddie Gibson, a very popular victory in a race full of drama here at Amaroo Park. Second place, Peter McLeod in the Slick 50 RX-7. In third spot, a brave effort by Garry Wilmington, carrying the Channel 7 camera around in the big Ford, and that's the way they finished in this heat of the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car Series here at Amaroo Park.
Well, it was an interesting race, a race of high attrition for so many of the cars. We've seen just so many of them drop out. Barry Jones, of course, Fred Geisler, who finished upside down just past our commentary position. Terry Shield, of course, went out. But to find out the reason why Fred Geisler finished upside down, Garry Wilkinson has the man in question, Fred Geisler.
Those old jokes about having your head in the sand aren't funny to people like Fred Geisler. Fred, that was one hell of a tumble you took there.
Yeah, it was. The Mazda stopped and Camaro moved over in front of me and stopped, and I just glanced off him, hit the bank and came to ground upside down.
Well, you were upside down before you could even blink, but how the devil did you get all this mud? I mean, you must have ploughed right into the bank, did you?
I think the top of the screen moved over into the dirt and the sand just came in through the window. I wasn't up at the screen.
You're in remarkably good shape. What sort of shape's the car in?
Well, I haven't had a look, but I don't think it's been hit hard, it's just bounced on the roof a little.
Heavens above. Well, there you go. The dangers of motor racing. But by the same token, you must see that Fred Geisler has come out of it in 100% good shape. Says a lot for the safety factors involved in today's motor racing, because that helmet looks as though it's been dragged through the mud, and that's exactly what happened to it. Fred was inside it at the time, but we're pleased to see you in great shape.
Thanks,
We'll let you get back and start work on the car, because it's going to take... Here we go. Good start too by Stevens. He's slotted himself into second place. McGann's in trouble. Car 76 going through the field there with a good run was Neil Brain in the big Monza. Over the top, Fitzgerald, the leader. Stevens in second place.
Yes, it was all power from the start, and that put McGann out of the action. He'd done very well in the wet.
John Burke in third place in the Celica, much stylised.
But it looks like being a Porsche versus Monaro battle. It's Fitzgerald in front in the Porsche RSR. There's a bit of a spin and a bit of a wobble from Steve Worsley in the Capri, getting back onto the track within the white lines. But now that the track is dry, the big Monaro of Bob Stevens is there to give Fitzgerald all the hurry up in the world. Fitzgerald goes
all over the back of him.
Fitzgerald goes deeper under braking, as one would expect from the Porsche. And very close is John Burke in the Celica. It's not your average Toyota. It has a turbocharged Holden engine under the roof, not under the bonnet, because it's a mid-engine car, but it's going quickly, but doesn't have the pace of these two cars up the hill. The one that does have the pace is the Monaro of Bob Stevens. He makes up ground, and he's right on the tail of the Porsche as they come out the top of Dunlop. Oh, right into the wall, not on the tail of anyone. Car 6, Trevor Ashby. The escort is not going to escort anyone there except the man who has to repaint the wall, where he's nudged it so hard, but he's out of the race. He's okay.
Fitzgerald and Stevens, they've pulled away from the Celica of John Burke. Oh boy, that's a handful, that car, isn't it?
And the front spoilers of both these cars, the air dams, the stop air getting under the car, scraping as they go around that corner. First the Porsche. Oh, he's gone into the wall. Straight off.
Hello. Just parked it nicely alongside the Escort into reverse. Thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop here.
Well, something went wrong, whether it was a brake problem, whether it was a gear selection problem, whatever it was, he's got it more or less under control. He wants to get back into the race, and he's in a state of some desperation, is Peter Fitzgerald.
A state of some shock, I'd imagine.
Well, something went wrong there, and he knew he couldn't take the corner. Braked, hit the tyre barrier, didn't do any damage, I don't think, although we'll look for our next front on view to see whether there is any rumpling around the fiberglass front there. But Bob Stevens now is in front, and he's got a big lead over John Burke in the Celica, who's coming second.
Garry Wilkinson is up into third place in car 40, the Mustang.
And the question is, can Peter Fitzgerald, who gave away 6 places, then get back into this race? This is a man he has to catch, and he was having a lot of trouble with him before. He went into the wall, and now he's giving him a start of something like 400, 500 metres. Fitzgerald's back and flying, but he's got a long way to make up to try and get back to this man who crosses the line to complete 3 laps.
No way he can make up the ground in the remaining 8 laps of this race. It's Bob Stevens in front in the big Monaro, second placing held by John Burke in a Celica. Garry Wilkinson is third in a Mustang, and Neil Brain in a Monza holding 4th place. That's the second place getter.
He's going very well, isn't he? He hasn't lost much ground to the man who is acknowledged as the Amaroo specialist in these cars. That's Bobby Stevens in the Monaro. There's the gap between the two, and this really is a great effort by Burke. He sees a chance not only to finish in the prize money, but maybe to win, and look how he's hustling that Celica through the bends. Smooth line by John Burke then, going very hard but not falling into the trap of being erratic about it. He's driving very smoothly, and he is certainly making up ground. Look at the difference there.
Closes to within about 40 metres under brakes in the corners, but on the long straights, that's where Stevens has a big advantage. He just plants the foot in the big Monaro, and away he goes up Bitchapave Hill. And poor old John Burke in the Celica. I say poor old John Burke. It's a beautiful car, and it goes extremely well, but on the straights, he certainly knows that he's giving something away to Bob Stevens.
Passes one of the Capris, probably Steve Worsley.
Stevens has an added advantage of doing most of his testing. Car 19 in a little bit of strife over there.
Doing a bit of a waltz was Bill Gray in a Tirana. He started from the rear of the grid, and he might have wished that he didn't even make the grid at all.
Bob Stevens has a big advantage, Evan, in that he does all his testing here on the Amaroo Park circuit. He's running into traffic now, and I think that Burke might be able to take advantage of this.
Now, beneath all the disguises, the aerodynamic add-on, the fiberglass air dam at the front, the big spoiler at the rear.
Past the halfway mark.
He's one of the older model Celicas, has a different engine, not the Toyota motor, as we were saying, but a lot of power there. But he hasn't got the power of this car, Bob Stevens in the big Monaro. But Monaro hasn't got the smaller size of the Celica, so he has to really manhandle this car around. Fine handling, big car it might be, but it is a big car. Made bigger by all the additions he's added to it to keep it on the road, because, let's face it, that car has a higher top speed than the takeoff speed of a Boeing 747. And he weighs about 200 times less, so he wants to keep it on the road.
Stevens the leader, Burke second.
And Burke is closer. You watch this angle, you'll see the two of them come into view. There's Burke now. He is certainly making up ground, but he tends to make it up to this point and then lose it from here on.
Wilmington still in third spot, a fair way back, and Fitzgerald is now up to fourth after that big lose before at Winfield.
We'll keep our eye on Fitzgerald, but we'll watch the progress of Burke here, because he is centimetre by centimetre whittling back the lead. He's going hard. This is the part of the circuit where he goes so well. The driver in the Gosford car really going hard there. So that's a beautiful line round Dunlop. He wasn't frightened to let it go wide, because he knew that was a fast way out of the corner. Takes another very fast line through Mazda, which is where the brave men really wind the car up to their maximum. Now he goes out to get a good line through Honda, the only real left-hander on the track. Takes a beautiful line there, just clips the paint without doing any more than taking off that last millimetre of paint on the inside of the circuit. And he's made up a bit more ground again, and he would have picked up Garry maybe 2 or 3 lengths on that lap.
Closes up again at Winfield. 3 laps to go for the race leader. Moving away, pursued by Burke. Up Bitchapave Hill once more. A lot of traffic in front, but this pair pretty much got the race between them. It's a long way back to car 40, Garry Wilmington in third spot, and Peter Fitzgerald in fourth.
Bob Stevens is an engineer by profession. He's 40 and he's been racing for half his life, so he's got 20 years experience. He's also got 3 cars in front, which might just slow him down a bit, because they've come at a fairly important part of the circuit, and Burke will see that. Now, the first one moves over, the second one can't, because he got himself a scrap with another car in front, so he knows that he's going to have a bit of a job getting by Pat Hogman. He goes through now. Now, that will just have maybe added a bit of an advantage towards Burke, but unfortunately for Burke, he's got the 3 of them to pass through Winfield, and he probably won't gain a great deal by it. He takes a line which gets him through without much trouble, but he has lost a bit of ground in that manoeuvre, whereas we might have expected the leader, this man, to have lost a lot of ground. In fact, it was the other way around. He opened up a slight lead just by the luck of the track.
Fitzgerald now up to third, but a long way back.
And while the leader comes across the top of Bitchapave and around through Dunlop, it is Fitzgerald in third place, who's just crossed the start-finish line. A great recovery by him, but something of a hopeless cause, because he gave away too much ground when he lost all that distance, with whatever caused him to go straight ahead and into Winfield. But a great recovery, and one that must have been welcomed by Bob Stevens, who was having a bit of a battle to try and get by him. Bob looked so relaxed there, you'd swear he had the radio on, maybe the stereo playing.
Last lap for that man on screen at the moment, Bob Stevens in the big Camaro. His ambition is to win the James Hardy with Ron Dixon.
James Hardy on October the 2nd this year. The last lap board out at this moment. All the cars see it. Stevens is clear and still fighting his way through traffic is John Burke in second place in the Celica, but the margin has opened up even more. In fact, probably Stevens can't even glimpse the man who's been in pursuit of him for so long because of the traffic blocking off the view, and the fact that the Celica driver, rather, John Burke, has been delayed by having to pass other cars and has dropped back quite considerably. Just saw him then, the little flash of red coming into view. He's back now maybe 150, 200 metres. And this man, unless something radical goes wrong, is going to win this race. He has less than half a lap to go. Been another great effort, hasn't it, Garry?
Certainly has. The race, I guess you could say, fell into his lap when Fitzgerald went off, but he was climbing all over the back of the Porsche at the time. So I think a fair result, and Bob Stevens certainly won't argue with it. He's put in a lot of effort, and he's proved that this big Monaro is still very, very competitive indeed at Amaroo Park. He takes the checkered flag. Bob Stevens, the Monaro, car number 4, is the winner. John Burke in the Celica crossing the line in second place, and as we look back, you'll see coming into view, there it is in the very distinctive multi-striped Porsche. Peter Fitzgerald takes third place in this round of the Comalco Wonderlic Sports Sedan Series here at Amaroo Park. Bad luck to Peter Fitzgerald, who'd qualified on pole in very fast time under the appalling wet conditions yesterday. Thought he had his big chance here today. He's provided most of the opposition to date in the series here for Bob Stevens. But that slight mishap at Winfield, plus the fact that Stevens, obviously, with the testing that he's done during the week, has found the answer to his tyre problems.
Flag, and Romano's been left. He can't get it moving. Now we'll see how well he can drive if he gets that car going, because the field is slipping by. And the man in the Spirit of Queensland, the car that he wants to take representing Australia overseas, is left on the line. Hopwood's in front, wondering where Romano's got to. He's got clear a hand behind him.
Romano's moving now on his way up Bitchapay, but he's a long way behind.
And it'll be a real test of his racing maturity. A man who hasn't had a great deal of racing experience, but very well blooded in international competition. How well will he go? He's giving them a quarter of a lap start. It's a marvellous sort of recipe for good racing. We'll see just how good Romano is. He's got a lot of ground to make up as the leaders come sweeping down on the track on this wet and slippery track.
Hopwood and Clearahan. Lee Vine is in third place in the Elfin. The two cars leading the race are both Kaditches.
It's a 10-lap race. Peter Hopwood in the big Chevy-powered 5-litre Kaditch goes through ahead of Clearahan. Hopwood did a 56.1 in practice yesterday. Romano did a 53.7, but Peter Hopwood only had 4 laps before the differential failed. So it wasn't really a typical run for him in that he didn't get the car fully wound up. Clearahan pressing him pretty hard though, and the two of them will be already, they'll have got the message from the pits that Romano had the car stalled on the grid, so they'll be going and making as much ground as they can.
They'll need to, I tell you, because he is flying, Romano. He's going to come into view before too much longer, and I'll tell you what, that car really does move. So do these, make no mistake. These boys aren't mucking around. Clearahan going through in second place. Peter Hopwood leads.
Romano's in 5th place. He's past the other cars, but at this stage, Garry, he would be 400 metres behind the leaders. He's just coming down now around Honda Corner, heading towards Winfield, so he's a long way back, as you can see it.
The leaders are crossing the start-finish line as Romano goes into Winfield Corner.
Here he comes in the Queensland-built Kaditch. An Aboriginal word that they say means the bear of magic, or meaning like that. Well, we'll see what sort of magic is built into this car. With wet weather, you do get a chance to study the aerodynamics, and you'll see just how the spray at the back fans out from beneath those twin tunnels, showing the downthrust from the ground effect design of this car. Round he goes. I'll tell you what, he might have been seen in racing cars for many years since his speedway days, but he knows how to drive, and he certainly isn't lacking in confidence.
Well, the Kaditch man is the man that points the bone, and he's pointed the bone at a few cars in front of him on the track already in this race, and he's making up ground with rapid strides, but as we mentioned, he'll need to after being left on the grid.
The engine is a 3-litre Cosworth Ford V8, the same as used in Formula 1 racing cars, but instead of running the 520 or so horsepower that the latest of those cars use, it's been detuned to around 430 horsepower in the interest of reliability in long-distance events. But he can crank it up to over 600, he reckons, if they really want to, maybe turbocharge it, because the rules for this sort of racing give them almost an open go. Just a touch of the brake there as he comes up to gobble another car as he makes his progress through the field.
Takes the outside, won't get round.
He'll have to be very careful what he does there. He doesn't want to go off just in trying to hastily pass another car. He just lost a bit of time then. He just has to wait for a clear squirt, which he should get fairly soon. This is a fast part of the circuit, and the car in front of him is pretty quick.
He can't afford to lose any time because Hopwood and Clearahan are still hard charging up at the front of the field. The gap between the leader Hopwood and Romano is 12.39 seconds.
Still Romano can't get by the third car. Having trouble with 68, just getting by. That's Lee Vine in the Elfin, an experienced driver, a good car. He's looking for the chance. There he goes, just slipping through before the straight, so I get a flying run, a little wave of a hand, whether it was a friendly gesture or just a gesture. I'm not so sure.
He's still got time, you know, Evan. He's got 5.5 laps yet.
Here he comes, the Spirit of Queensland, flying around this New South Wales track in very un-Queensland-like weather. The engine is behind the driver. Fuel and gearbox, very much an advanced type motor car. A glorious looking car if you're used to that sort of shape. Very unconventional. But the most modern Group A sports car we have in Australia. designed by Barry Locke, who builds the Kaditch cars in Queensland.
Clearahan is now in the lead in this race. He got by Hopwood down in Wonderlick. Hopwood got just a little out of shape and allowed Clearahan to get through. And there, over the top of the hill, is Clearahan. He's got the lead. Hopwood hard on his tail. Hoppy will be cursing himself for that mistake, and it was his mistake that cost him the lead.
But I wonder if they know that only 250 metres behind is the closing shape of Bap Romano's Kaditch. The Kaditch man is drawing up at them. Will he point the bone at them? Will he sneak up in his feathered shoes?
Well, we'll get a... I don't know if I can follow that. We'll get a gap on them here as they go past at the back of the course. Clearahan going by my timing point now, and we've got the clock on him.
I'm just taking a timing mark on the two of them.
It's 7 seconds. Oh, Hopwood's out of shape and gone. Goodbye. Backwards into the dirt, and there's Romano coming into view. So he's in second place.
Oh, Hopwood into third place now, but he hasn't got the pace to keep up with Romano. Romano showing a great deal of driving skill here. He's a confident fella, but he seems to have the ability to back it up.
He lands a very slow car.
Another car there. Oh, what a magnificent motor car this is. Look at the way it's holding onto the road. Taking good lines there, never looking like sliding out of shape. The faster he goes, the more the wind tunnel effect of the car, those two cavernous ground effect Venturis suck him down to the road. And the quicker he goes, the safer it seems.
Clearahan, the only car on the track, and that's him in front of Romano at the present time. Clearahan handles the wet very well. He did win in Formula Fords at Surface Paradise last year in pouring rain, so he knows how to handle this sort of conditions. But I will tell you what, within a lap, Mr. Romano is going to have him for breakfast, I think. Has he got a lap? Yes, he has.
Clearahan has just gone by.
He's got 3 laps. I don't see any way that Clearahan can hold him off. Not the way he's been closing.
And that raucous, almost painful sound of the Cosworth V8 revving away. They take him up to 10, 11,000 revs in Formula 1, and I suspect that they're going reasonably close to that limit. There's Romano with his 3-litre V8, because that's the way the car is designed to run. Nothing much under about 8,000 revs. A shattering noise from that double overhead cam Cosworth motor.
The problem is going to be that before the race finishes, these two are going to start running into heavy traffic.
Well, now, Romano has time to win. He just has to settle down and take him at his ease, not be pressured into trying to get by Clearahan in a difficult place. That's the gap now. He still has 2 laps to go. Not a lot of time, but the way he's made up ground, he can almost pick and choose where he wants to get by. This is where he's fast. Will he try and do it first time? Because that car in front is going quickly. It's the older model Kaditch, throwing up a lot of spray from the back of the car, and you've got that real rooster tail of mist to get through. And there's one dreadful moment of almost blindness when you're trying to pass a car under the wrong sort of conditions.
Well, Romano's not going to have much more than one chance, I wouldn't think, and he's going to have to make it. Well, he's make the best of it.
He's on a very hard part of the circuit now, Gary. If he tries now, it'll be a difficult place because the car in front will be going quickly. He's just pausing. That shows good sense. Clearahan taking the line through Honda, and he will know, of course, that Romano's... Oh, Romano's gone. He's gone. He's gone. The car's sliding. He's holding it. Can he get it back?
And he wouldn't touch the wall.
No, he would go behind a tree too.
Clearahan clears out.
Now, he's got the car under control. That's a good test of him. He's doing it gently. He's not spinning the wheels. He's taking it very gently. This fellow is good. A lot of drivers would have put their foot down on the throttle and spun hopelessly out, but he's got it back again.
And he's on the track in 3rd place. Hopwood went by in the meantime, so it's Clearahan in front, Hopwood running 2nd, and Romano in 3rd place.
Well, tribute to Romano. He spun out. That's bad luck for him. It is a great car. He's driven it well. He's taken it slowly now. In fact, he may not finish the race. He may decide to go into the pits to see if any damage has occurred, which is a fairly sensible thing because something could have happened to such a low-slung car going off onto the rough. Well, bad luck, but I suspect that while we will see Chris Clearahan clear out and win the race, we have seen today in the performance of Bap Romano and the Kaditch a car which is likely to dominate this category of motor racing in Australia and maybe carry the flag for Queensland and Australia overseas. Clearahan with just one more corner to go after this to take victory in the sports car Group A scratch race.
Here he comes. Well, disappointment for Romano, but not so for Clearahan. Yes, and he's got the money, and doesn't he know it? Oh, Hoppy spun again, has he? Yes, Hopwood spun again. He was in 2nd place. It's been handed to him on a plate. Now the car's stopped. and it just will not go. So
he's just out of sight on the... There he is now. Oh, disconsolate Peter Hopwood saying, if only I had the Chevy Impala.
Now here comes Romano. He did go around again.
Well, he just went round gently. Well, that shows to me a lot of sense, just going round to make sure nothing is wrong, and he will pick up second spot.
He must be second. No? 68 is second. Ah, Lee Vine has finished second.
Right, well, Romano then probably in third place. The field was somewhat spread-eagled, but a good effort by Romano, and a bit like the first time we saw Burnborough run in Sydney. You know, he finished a long way back, but people said, my golly, when they know when to time the run, won't he be hard to beat?
And Peter Hopwood, well, he's had more turns than a bottle of sour milk, and he's finished up out of the money.
A car like that, where there's big, broad back tyres on a wet track, and something like 500 horsepower under your foot.
Sports car action at Amaroo Park with Chris Clearahan, the winner. Second placing going to Lee Vine, and third to Bamp Romano in that remarkable new Kaditch of his, which obviously has the potential to do anything. You saw it for yourself. He got stuck on the grid, lost, well, nearly a third of a lap, made up the ground, was challenging for the lead when he hit the ripple strip just down at Honda and got out of shape. In fact, we've got a replay of that right now, so let's take a look. Bamp Romano, here he comes. Just clipped the ripple strip, and the car, going at such tremendous speeds here, just got totally out of shape, and he did extremely well here, Evan.
He did very well to hold it. Look at that nasty fence facing him. He's just holding him in the slide.
Could have done a lot of expensive damage to that car, but held it, didn't hit the bank. Flag about to drop.
The start will be critical. Flag
Gibson
is up.
Looking for a much better effort than he had in the first heat. Here we go.
Side by side, and it's Barry Jones wins the first gear exchange, heading up Bitchafave Hill for the first time. Gibson zeroes in on the inside of him as they race up to the top of Marlborough and down into Dunlop Loop. Side by side they were, because Fred Gibson has now gone through to take the lead away from Barry Jones. That puts Peter McLeod up very, very smartly indeed into third place. And then making a move there is Jim Keogh in the Toshiba entry, and Greg Topfer with Garry Wilmington out very wide indeed in the fourth. Just look at the rain soaking the circuit as fiery Fred Gibson, the Nissan Two-Bird, comes down the back straight.
Well, he got the start that he wanted, Fred Gibson, quickly away. Not quite as quick as Barry Jones, but he held it up the hill the first time, Gibson, and now has the lead. Barry Jones, second in car 41. Third spot held down by Peter McLeod at the present time, car number 50, another RX-7. Paul Jones is in there too, yes, in another RX-7. Quite a battle going on for third, fourth, fifth places, but the leader clear cut.
We heard from Fred Gibson to say that they're running on full wet weather rubber.
Wise.
Judging by the little sideways movement there from Barry Jones, maybe he might be on intermediates, only time will tell. Over the top and down into Dunlop Loop again, Freddie Gibson starting to increase that lead now over Barry Jones in the RX-7 and Peter McLeod. There's the gap from first to second. And there's Barry Jones running in second spot in the race.
Jones won the first heat that opened the start of our telecast here this afternoon. Did not complete the second heat, and you can see by the damage to parts of his car why.
I was talking to Barry Jones on the starting line, asking why he had crashed. I just chose the wrong tyres. He fitted intermediates rather than slicks. They went off as the track dried, and he just lost control. He's got racing wet tyres now, as has Fred Gibson, hand-cut slicks with deep grooves to channel the water off, and he's not going to make the same mistake. Now it's just purely and simply a question of power, and so far it seems that the power belongs to the turbo. But
from the driver's
further back in the field, that's the sort of view you get. That's Garry Wilmington's car, and how would you like to be racing with that sort of view?
The same problem last year, Garry Wilmington, in one of the wet races, didn't have the windscreen wipers working at all, and I dare say he has a problem in that area again.
Yes, I don't know whether he's just choosing not to run it because there's only a light mist, or whether they're not working, whether they're not even effective, but whatever it is, he's not getting much of a view. He's closing up a little bit on the car in front, but now he's going down a hard part of the circuit, coming towards the left-hand bend. And as you can see, Garry Wilmington, like all the other drivers further back in the field, aren't getting much of a view, which is why it pays to be right out in front, like Freddie Gibson.
Well, he's got the best view as he goes past the start-finish line with 3 laps completed. This is a 10-lap event. And Fred Gibson on a high, having won the second heat today, finished second in the first heat. And he's looking to make it 2 out of 3 to help him on his way up the point score ladder in the Better Brakes AMSCAR series.
I was out at Amaroo Park on another mission some weeks ago, and by chance stumbled upon Fred Gibson and Howard Marsden, the team manager of Nissan, here testing tyres, and that's one reason why they do so well. They are thorough. They were out here trying a variety of tyres. Look at the gap back to the third place one. That's how far back there. That's Greg Topher running in third place behind the Turbo Bluebird and the RX-7.
He's done very well to get by McLeod's Mazda, the big Commodore. A ton of power and hard to handle around this tight circuit under these conditions. Big gap between the first and second place getters and himself.
He's come on well, Topher, hasn't he, really? You know, he's one of the drivers we tend not to see a great deal of in races, and he really is shining in this meeting. He's up in third place, has always been prominent.
McLeod in fourth spot, and Garry Wilmington, and that's him with the camera in the car, in fifth spot. And if you can see him, that's McLeod just out there in front somewhere. By gee, I'd hate to be driving under these conditions. Garry Wilmington with tremendous power, closing up on McLeod as they come over the top of Bitcher Pave Hill, now going down into the big sweeping right-hander called Dunlop Loop.
Surprisingly, Garry, it was the big Falcon which closed on the lighter Mazda. I would have thought that the Mazda would have pulled away there, but in fact, Garry Wilmington, as we see the flash, the typical flash of the rotary engine backfiring to the exhaust. Nothing wrong with the car, that's just a characteristic of the rotary engine. Yes, he is catching up on the rotary. And
right behind him, of course, there's Jim Keogh in the Toshiba car, which you'll notice go down the left-hand side. There he goes now. So if you thought that Garry Wilmington was running faster than that V8, now he has to do it all over again. He's lost one more spot, and that's Jim Keogh.
Trying to get back again on the inside, coming out of Winfield. Side by side, they come down into Wunderlich corner. Wilmington's got the line.
I'm not quite sure where Keogh ended up, because he was there when we last saw. No,
there he is.
He's not a blur of white paint.
He's not giving up.
Toshiba car going well. This is a good effort by Keogh. Really, he's driving under very difficult conditions in a spirited fashion. That's a lot of Tiger, more than I
and to say
might have expected there. These are desperately difficult, dangerous conditions, and Keogh is pressing on very hard, trying to get by Wilmington. Got by him, lost out under sheer power. Will have to do it all again, but the way he's driving, he's going to try. He won't be seeing much. His wipers are going, whereas Wilmington's aren't, so obviously Wilmington's wipers aren't working. So instead of wagging the wipers, he wags the tail.
Coming down into Honda again, getting a little bit sideways, Garry Wilmington.
Well, he's got the pressure on him, hasn't he? A little bit loose there at the front too, the bodywork.
Well, here comes Keogh again in the Toshiba Commodore down on the inside. Wilmington, not bad shape coming out of that corner. The short straight away, the run to Wunderlich corner, brings them back onto the long straight here at Amaroo Park. And that'll give you an idea what it's like inside Garry Wilmington's car.
They're battling for fifth position, Wilmington and Keogh. McLeod up ahead of them in fourth. Topher is up in third spot, Barry Jones second, and the race leader is still Fred Gibson.
It must be an enormous handicap to Wilmington not to have the wipers going. You can see what the view is like. Let's see what things are like with the leader. His wipers will be going, I think, although he doesn't have any spray from preceding cars to worry him, but Fred will have everything working he possibly could, including the wipers. A white strip across the top of the screen, as most drivers have, just to prevent the sun shining in their eyes. Not likely to be a hazard today here at Amaroo Park. And Fred Gibson, 42 years of age, racing for 22 of those. One of the great characters, one of the nice blokes of motor racing. Won Bathurst way back in 1967 with Harry Firth. And now enjoying truly a new lease of his motor racing life as the development and racing driver for Nissan. About 2.5 laps still to go in this final heat of the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car Series here. Fred Gibson in front, scooting away, enjoying himself. Fred loves his motor racing. The fact that he's on tyres that are giving him good grip, tyres that he's helped develop and test, and that they hang on, he'd be having a ball, because like other drivers like Colin Bond and Dick Johnson and John French and some of those who really do race for the sheer pleasure of it, Freddie Gibson loves his motor racing.
He's 5.6 seconds ahead of Barry Jones, holding down second spot in the Darrell Lee Mazda RX-7. And then it's a very substantial margin from Jones back to Greg Topher in third place, and Topher in fact is under pressure at the moment for that spot from Peter McLeod in yet another RX-7. There's Barry Jones, second place getter, going up Bitchapave Hill, 6 seconds in arrears of Fred Gibson.
What a good effort to get this car back on the road, because it did bend its suspension, and you can see all the tape over the car in the prang it suffered in the first heat. So in only a matter of about an hour or so, they've rebuilt the suspension of the car and taped it all back together.
And McLeod has got by Topher, so he's now in third spot. There goes Fury out of sight. There's Jones holding down second. Another RX-7. Peter McLeod is in third place. Coming around, Fred Gibson to get the last lap board as he takes this corner, straightens up for the start-finish line. There's the board.
The last lap sign for Fred Gibson in the Works Nissan Turbo, and the sight of these cars winning races and doing well, as George Fury has been in the National Series, can't be one that brings a great deal of joy into the hearts of rival manufacturers, because all of them know that not only is this factory effort doing much better than they thought, but they know it's just the start. There are better cars to come. There are bigger engines in store. This is very much a Japanese toe in the water, and the fact that it's proving so successful will certainly lead to other efforts from Nissan and maybe some of the other manufacturers as well. And it's good to see a factory racing like they are, out here proving their product, developing new cars, because we'll certainly see turbocharged cars from this factory and others on the market before long. In the meantime, Freddie Gibson not thinking about such things, just thinking about winning the race. 2 more corners to go, sawing away at the wheel in classic Gibson fashion around Winfield. He has Barry Jones no more than 150 metres behind, but he can't do anything about it. It's going to be Fred Gibson who wins the final round with the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car race here this afternoon. Across the line he goes. The checker flag waves for him. Here comes Barry Jones in second spot in the Mazda RX-7, and it'll be Peter McLeod in the Slick 50 RX-7 in third place. So it's Nissan, Mazda, Mazda. That's the order. They're the drivers who finished in the first 3 places in this final heat of the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car Series here at Amaroo this afternoon.